Welcome back again to a special post-debate edition of Hannity and Colmes. And you, the viewer, by the way, have been participating in our You Vote text messaging poll to see who you think won tonight's debate. And here are the results as of now. In first place with 35%, Ron Paul. Rudy Giuliani came in second.
Oh, here we go again.
Driving Hannity crazy.
Driving me
with
crazy.
16% of your votes, 17% of your votes. That just changed. In third place, Mike Huckabee. We'll talk to in just a moment. 15%. You can keep sending us your votes throughout the rest of the show to FNCTV or 36288. Joining us now is the former Arkansas governor and presidential candidate Mike Huckabee. Why do you do better in these polls, on these polls, than you actually do in the polls having to do with your standing in the race?
Well, because I think a lot of the polls reflect name ID. What you're seeing tonight, people who actually are watching and listening. And so what I want to do is to get all those people to vote for me out there, you know, and bring those numbers up.
You know, you always hear this talk about first tier, second tier. I'm sure that drives you crazy. But what do you have to do to break through to be where you need to be in order to get the nomination?
Alan, I really think that we did break into the first tier after the Iowa straw poll. With limited resources, we showed that we were pulling people to vote for us, not because they were being paid, but because they really believed in what we were standing for. We distanced ourselves from the field. We now, in Iowa, for example, we are tied with Fred Thompson, ahead of Rudy Giuliani and ahead of John McCain. I think that's frontier by most anybody's standards.
A lot of people look at you and say, here's a guy, executive experience, ran a state that from which somebody came and became president at one point. Not on the top tier, but maybe could be a vice presidential candidate. Is that a position you could accept?
You know, right now, I don't think anybody goes and says, gee, I really want to be number two. I want the silver medal. So what I'm just continuing to focus on is becoming president. And I still think that if you look at the trajectory over the last 8 months, we're on the track to get there. And I still think that's going to be a bigger issue. Who am I going to pick to be vice president rather than will I be vice president?
And who would that be, by the way?
Well, I don't know just yet. It depends on how nice these guys are.
Don't look to your right. By the way,
actually, you know, Stephen Colbert sort of, I don't know, got an obligation.
Oh, you've got it.
He gave me the Colbert bump on national television. Yeah.
So that means that he's ahead of me in the contention here?
Have you given me the Sean bump yet?
Here's the Sean bump.
Okay, there we go.
Choose Hannity, because I've got all the sound bites that are going to hurt him if he's your running mate. But, you know, you talk about things in these debates that how focused are these debates in terms of the issues that you believe the American people should be hearing about?
Well, I don't think we've yet captured a lot of the issues we need to talk about. We're 5 debates now, not one education question. Americans are concerned about education. They're concerned about jobs. They're concerned about health care. But isn't the war a big issue? It's a big issue, but, you know, we were debating an hour and a half, and I think if you look at it, there's really one candidate of all of us who is substantially different than the rest of us. That's Congressman Paul. So we can kind of clear that air and maybe give 20 minutes to it. And then we need to be talking about, if you're president of the United States, what are you going to do to keep all of our jobs from going to China? What are you going to do to change our tax system and give us a tax code that we can live with?
But you guys have been in power for a long time. You've had both houses of Congress here recently. You've been running the war on terror. Some would say not as well as many Americans would like. The war in Iraq not going well according to most Americans. Why should the American public re-empower the party who gave us all that?
Well, they shouldn't re-empower the party if they're Washington addresses, but they should give us a chance if we've been running a state. And I think one of the reasons that I ultimately will end up being the nominee is because rather than saying, look at all this Washington experience I have, that's what people are upset with. They haven't solved problems. But in our states, we have improved education and health care and rebuilt our bridges and roads. We've done the things that really matter to the American people.
Governor, one of the more interesting and lively exchanges tonight was between yourself and Ron Paul. What do you think of that exchange and more specifically what he was saying?
Well, I just had to call him out on it. And I have great respect for Congressman Paul. He's a man who's got deep convictions. He stands by them. He doesn't care who likes him or doesn't. And for that, I appreciate him. But you cannot have a country where you don't stand united behind your president and your Congress. And here's the thing, Sean, that I feel so strongly about. I don't care whether Bill Clinton's the president or George Bush is the president. When we are at war, we're not 2 countries. We're not 3 or 4 countries. We are one nation, under God, indivisible. We can't be anything else or we are not going to survive.
He's coming up a little bit later, and I think we're going to have a little bit of a battle because of some of the things that he said and some of the positions he took. The other question that came up was the quote that they brought up about the issue of people that oppose illegal immigration and the race issue here. And you said you want to distance yourself. I don't see a lot of that. I think most people that I talk to on immigration, they want to secure the borders for national security. They see what it's done to the infrastructure of the country. Do you really see a lot of that?
No, not a lot. I was asked, do I see any? And I said, yes, I do. I do see some.
Some.
But overwhelmingly, it's not that people are racist. Overwhelmingly, people are angry at their government. They're angry at a completely incompetent, failed government who has had 20 years and has still not secured the border. It's harder for me to get on the airplane in Little Rock, as I did yesterday, than it is for an illegal to cross the international border. And people in the government act as if we don't know what in the world to do. And that's why I said that we can track packages better than we can keep up with 20 million people.
You took a position on abortion. You said life begins at conception.
Yes.
It was interesting as I listened to your position and Governor Romney's, for example, where he talked about, America is not there right now. Did you agree with that statement? And do you think there is a way to perhaps change people's minds on that issue?
America wasn't there on slavery either, but we knew that it was right to abolish slavery, that no human being should be treated as a second-class citizen, that no human being could be treated as if they did not have the basic intrinsic rights as other human beings. This is really a deeper issue. It's not just something that we can argue with politically. We've got to come to the simple conclusion, is it a human life or is it isn't? If it is a human life, then that changes everything.
If I look at the candidates, with the exception of Ron Paul, on the issues of Iraq and immigration and on taxes, virtually all the candidates there are distinctions, but they have very similar positions,
Pretty
especially
close.
compared to Democrats.
Right.
On the issue of taxes, though, you take a very strong position in support of the fair tax.
I do. And Sean, the reason is because we have a saying in the South that, if duct tape and WD-40 can't fix it, nothing can. Well, our tax code cannot be fixed even with duct tape and WD-40.
By the way, I have enough WD-40 in my garage to last a lifetime.
I mean, it's
Governor,
great stuff.
Thank you very much.
Gotta go.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Governor.
And more highlights from tonight's New Hampshire presidential debate coming up next. And don't forget, by the way, you can still vote